All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start. The bottom of page 377, we're looking at the got it, and we're going to now start doing some examples with variables. So we're going to start with letter D to begin with. Now, yesterday we were doing some problems where you didn't necessarily have to do distributive property, but that was because we were not using any variables. So if I actually just scroll back up for a minute here, these examples from yesterday, no variables. So we could actually do order of operations. And we talked about how order of operations and distributive property, if you chose to do either way, like I did in example A, you were going to get the same answer. Well, today that can't happen. We can't use order of operations because we now have unknown variables within the problems. So we have to use distributive property. As I go through these problems, you're going to see me draw the arrows like I did yesterday, showing me distributing that value on the outside of the parentheses to everything inside the parentheses. So let's start. Letter D. So 6 times everything in the parentheses, A minus 4. So we need to do 6 times A. We also need to do 6 times 4. So we have to make sure that 6 gets distributed to everything. And that's why I draw the arrows. It reinforces me to make sure that I absolutely multiply by everything inside on those parentheses, or inside those parentheses, excuse me. Now, 6 times A. Just like this. Plus, so I'm just going to copy the add sign down. 6 times 4. All right, so that's what it looks like. Now let's just simplify it. 6 times A. Well, the only thing I can do with that is 6A, and just get rid of the multiplication sign in between. Plus 6 times 4 is 24. So this expression right here is actually the simplest I can make it. I can't combine it anymore. I can't add 6A and 24 together because 24 doesn't have an A next to it. And so that's actually what you learn in lesson 5 coming up in a few days with Mr. Whalen is when you can combine terms and how that looks. Right now, this is all I can do with it. Again, these are two different terms. They are called unlike terms. This is my final simplified answer I can get for my expression. Look at letter E. M plus 3n inside parentheses, and then on the outside is times 8. Now the 8 is over on the right, and that's going to happen from time to time, and it's okay. You can leave it there if you would like to then distribute, but if you do not like seeing it that way, don't be afraid to rewrite it, meaning if you want to see that 8 on the left-hand side, I'm just going to put it over there, and then I'm just going to rewrite inside the parentheses m plus 3n, just like that. All I did was move the 8 from the right to the left. If you like it better this way, fantastic. If not, you can leave it as it is. So let's get started. We're going to take 8 and we're going to distribute it to m. We're also going to take the 8 and distribute it to 3n. So what does that look like? 8 times m. 8 times m. Plus 8 times 3n. Times 3n, just like that. All right, let's just continue to simplify. 8 times m. That's just 8m. I just get rid of the multiplication sign. Plus 8 times 3n. Well, 8 times 3 is 24. And then I just bring the n with it. So this is also as simplified as I can get it. 8m plus 24n. I cannot add these two together. They have two different variables next to each other. And so it actually is my final simplified answer. I'm going to come back to letter F. Let's go to letter G for a minute. So 1/2 times W minus 4. Okay, so I need to multiply 1/2 times W. So it looks like this. I'm going to keep the subtraction sign here. And then 1/2 times 4. And then simplify. 1/2 times W. Well, that's just 1/2 W. Minus half times 4. Half of 4 here. That's 2. So my final simplified answer for this one, 1/2 W minus 2. That's all I can do with it. Again, cannot add these two together. They are considered unlike terms. Let's go back to letter F. So the reason why I wanted to come back to this one is I want you to really look at this. On the outside of the parentheses, you have a -3. And inside the parentheses, you have y minus 10. So when this situation occurs, if you have a negative that you're going to multiply on the outside by everything on the inside, and you have a subtraction sign, I'm going to make sure that you do leave change opposite. So I'm going to write LCO down here. And I'm going to do LCO inside the parentheses. Y leave, change subtraction to addition. That becomes now a -10. The reason why I'm doing that is when I go to distribute this -3, multiply this -3 by everything inside, I want to make sure I see all of my positives and negatives. I want to make sure that I don't make a mistake with any of my integer rules. This is a really unique situation, and you're going to see more problems like it today and on the problems you try on the worksheet. Know that this is still going to appear. So we're going to do this one together, and hopefully you're seeing what happens with this leave change opposite and what happens with your integer rules. Okay, let's get started. We're going to do -3 times y. Now, remember I did LCO, so this now is a plus sign. And when I distribute the -3, this is now -3 times -10. -3 times -10. Okay, let's simplify it. -3 times y. -3y. Plus. Integer rules here. -3 times a -10. Two negatives multiplied together is a positive, so that's going to be positive 30. -3y plus 30. I'm done. That's, again, as simplified as I can take it. If I had not done leave change opposite, you may have made a mistake and done the wrong integer rules here. You could have come up with a -30 as an answer if you did not carefully look at that problem. So I'm telling you and stressing to you, any example like letter F, where you have a negative on the outside and a subtraction sign on the inside, I'm going to ask that you do leave change opposite so those integer rules are clear, so you see those positive negatives clearly to be able to distribute correctly in the problem. Okay, let's keep going here. So let's take a look at guided practice. We're going to look at 1, 2, and 3 here. Number 1 is very similar to what we did yesterday. So remember I said if there's no variables in here, you can do order of operations. So on guided practice, which is on page 378, I can do 11 plus 8 and get 19. And then I can take and multiply that by -3. So if I'm going to do 19 times -3, so I just come over here and multiply that out. All right, and I get 57. And then I think about my integer rules. One negative when I multiply stays negative, -57. Number 2, -5 times 2x plus 4y. So I have variables. I cannot do order of operations. I do have to distribute. So I'm going to draw my arrows so that I know exactly what I need to go and multiply each one by. This is now -5 times 2x plus -5 times 4y. Let's start to simplify. -5 times 2, -10x plus -5 times 4, negative 20y. Final, right here. Cannot simplify it any further. I cannot add those together. Each one has a different variable next to the value. Those are unlike terms. Number 3, 1/5 times g minus 10. I do need to do distributive property. I have a variable in my problem. So I'm going to do 1/5 times g minus 1/5 times 10. So you don't have to do LCO here inside the parentheses. The reason why is because on the number, the outside, the 1/5 that you're multiplying it by, it's a positive. And so there's no need for it. You can leave the subtraction sign there. 1/5 times g. 1/5 g. Keep that minus sign there. And then you're going to do 1/5 times 10. So if this is confusing to you, think about that as 10 over 1. 1/5 times 10 over 1. That's 2. 1/5 of 10 is 2. Final simplified expression, 1/5 g minus 2. I'm just going to keep going. So those were problems we did yesterday, and that was independent practice. So we're going to take a look on 379 at 7 through 12 here. Let's look at number 7. These absolutely have variables in here. So we will make sure that we do distributive property. And so you'll see me do 3 times each value inside. 3 times negative 4x plus 3 times 8. Let's start to simplify. 3 times negative 4, negative 12x, plus 3 times 8, 24. Final simplified answer for my expression using distributive property, negative 12x plus 24. Number 8, 4 times x minus 6y. I do not need to do leave change opposite. I have a positive value 4 on the outside of the parentheses that I'm going to multiply by. I can leave that subtraction sign. And I'm just going to take and distribute. I'm going to do 4 times x minus 4 times 6y. 4 times x. 4x minus 4 times 6, 24y. Final. There we go. Number 9, 6 times 5 minus q. This is a positive 6 on the outside of the parentheses. So I'm not going to do LCO. I want to see. I can still distribute this with a positive 6 on the outside. So if I do 6 times 5, keep the subtraction sign, 6 times q. 6 times 5 is 30 minus 6 times q, 6q. All right. If I am going fast, which I feel like I am, don't be afraid to pause at any time so that you can kind of catch up to make sure you're seeing the problem and understanding it before you keep moving on. I'm going to do 3 more with you. Number 10. 1/2 times c minus 8. This is a positive 1/2 here, so I'm okay distributing. I don't need to do LCO here. So this is going to be 1/2 times c minus 1/2 times 8. 1/2 c minus 1/2 times 8. Half of 8. That would give you 4. Final simplified, 1/2 c minus 4. Now, number 11, notice here, this is a -3, a negative value on the outside that we're going to multiply by, and you have a subtraction sign. So in this example right here, I want you to do leave change opposite inside the parentheses because I want you to make sure that you understand where your negatives are and you follow the correct integer rules. So this is going to become 5 plus a negative b. All right, let's go. So we're going to distribute. We're going to do -3 times 5 plus -3 times negative b. -3 times 5, -15. Plus -3 times negative b, 2 negatives multiplied as a positive. So that's plus a positive 3b there. Final simplified answer. Last one, number 12. So d plus 2 times -7. The -7 is over on the right, and I said if you're uncomfortable with that, you can rewrite it. So I'll write or -7 on the left. You can move it over. Whoops. D plus 2. So yeah, I have a negative on the outside of the parentheses, but I have an adding sign inside the parentheses. I'm good to go. There's no reason to do leave change opposite. You don't do that anyways with adding. So we can go ahead and distribute. So we're going to do -7 times d plus -7 times 2. -7 times d, -7d plus -7 times 2, -14. Final. All right, so that's quite a few examples that we went through together. And I want to make sure you have some time to practice this on your own. So at this point, like I talked about on the agenda here, you're now going to, at letter B, open that document up. You're going to look at the evens and work the evens out on lined paper. When you're done, you have an answer key to check your work. And then afterwards, I showed you where Quizzes is on Google Classroom. So have a great day. I will actually see you back on video next week. Mr. Whalen will be working Thursday and Friday with you with lesson 5. Have a great day.